Hi, everybody. This is Jean Ketchum, Aging but Dangerous. And we have a very exciting guest with us today. Um, I will just call her by one name. It's Babette. I love that name. It's Babette Hughes, but I love to just say Babette. We interviewed her. Aging but Dangerous interviewed her like, oh my gosh, I think it was probably 4 years ago or something on our radio show, and she had just written a book, and we were so excited to talk to her and had so much fun talking to her. And now we have her back, and she has written another book. So Babette, welcome to our little show here.
Thank you, Jean.
It's just so much fun to have you, and this time we can see you. When you were on the radio we couldn't see you, but please tell everybody about. All right, I just read in your book, I have your book here, and in your author's note, this will get everybody's attention because you said, my story is about murder, family, and the search for authentic self. And that is very, very catching. And of course, at Aging but Dangerous, we talk about that all the time about being your authentic self. So tell us about this.
I have to think even where to begin. It was when I was married as a child, just past my 19th birthday. And the marriage turned out to be a big mistake. But part of my being with this marriage was trying to be like he wanted me to be, like being the country club ladies, to be doing what they do. And my early life had made me ashamed of my background, which we can talk about later. But I tried so hard. I remember all the ladies drank at club parties, so I drank martinis and I wound up on the bathroom floor. And
My favorite drink, by the way.
yes, and also one day they had like a day of races, and I got in the race and I sprained my ankle. So it began to dawn on me that, I took golf lessons. My hands broke out in hives.
Oh, wow.
My body was telling me so emphatically, this is not who you are, and stop trying to be who you are. And that was such an important revelation to me. It got me into therapy, psychotherapy, where I could start that search for self, which is.
And how old were you then? How old were you then?
I was 33.
Okay.
And I was a pioneer in psychoanalysis. Freud had only been dead 16 years.
Oh, wow.
And in those days, if you went to a psychiatrist, you were crazy.
Yes.
This was 1950, I don't remember, and it's in 50s. So I used to lie. I used to say I was going to the dentist. I used to be ashamed that people would think I was crazy. But my time in psychoanalysis changed my life. Totally.
How long were you in psychoanalysis?
5 years.
Okay, wow.
Days, it was every day.
Woo.
On the couch every day. And you talk and talk and talk. And the doctor says nothing. And it's so frustrating. But that's the process. That got me into being my authentic self. And I have to tell you, when you get it, it is so liberating.
Mm-hmm.
It is so liberating to find out who you are. And the culture also works against our telling us who we are. Because when we age, our culture tells us that we're done, that we're collateral damage,
right,
that life is over. That's not true. And it has nothing to do with who we are. Right. So this search is important at every age, but I believe more so as we get older.
Yes.
Because we can make a good life for ourselves when we get to know ourselves.
Right. And I don't think we've told everybody how old you are. Maybe we tell them?
7 and counting.
How old?
97 and counting.
That's
That's
amazing.
in my book.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. 97 Speaks is the name of your book. Okay, go ahead.
So this has been a real journey for me for all these years and all these problems that I've had. And one of the most important things I believe I've learned is the power of the culture to do bad and to do good for us. It got us to stop smoking. That
Yeah.
was, but it illustrates its power, and it gets us to be internalizing how the culture fears and dreads old age. And that's my hope, that this communicates itself to people, that the brain is what works. The brain is what tells us the truth. We have to use it because most of us have clutter. I do, we all do. And we're not in a place where we can address the power of our brain to tell us the truth. But it's doable, it's possible.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree with all that. Well, so tell us about this book.
And the book is called, as we said, 97 Speaks, Lessons from the Decades. And it starts with my family, my father, who was a bootlegger, who was murdered by the mafia in a turf war. And he was, the mafia hijacked his truck full of bootlegging whiskey. And my father told him he was going to retaliate. And the mafia guy said, if you retaliate, we'll get you. So my father stayed in the house for weeks because he knew they were going to get him, because he did hijack the mafia's bootlegging truck. Okay, so my mother's sister and her husband come to visit. My father thinks he'll be safe if he's not alone to go out of the house. He's been hiding in the house for weeks. He takes his brother-in-law out to go to the pinochle game, comes back, and they're both murdered.
Oh,
They're both murdered. And the two young wives hear the shots, run down in their nightgowns and find their young, these are all people in their 20s,
wow.
find their husbands bleeding dead on the ground. I was 2 years old. My brother was 6. And my baby cousin was 1 year old.
Hmm. Does your brother remember this?
Yes, he was 6.
Wow.
He remembered the night. He remembered the crying, the screaming, the police, the newspapers, the neighbors.
Wow.
And that began a energy toward feeling secretive. My mother never, when I was old enough to ask her how my father died, she said he died of pneumonia.
Oh.
She would never answer my questions about him.
And when did you find out the truth?
When I was 12 years old, I asked my brother, who remembered it, and he said, go down to the public library newspaper archives and you can find out what happened.
Oh my gosh.
So I said, how do I know what date? He said, they were murdered on your 2nd birthday. I'm 12 years old. I go downtown to the library. I go to the archives. I ask for the newspapers. In those days, there were 3, the Cleveland Press, the Cleveland News, and the Cleveland Plain Dealer in Cleveland. I get these newspapers. I'm 12, and I see headlines about the murders with pictures of my father and his brother-in-law and my mother and me as a baby and my brother. And at first in the newspaper stories, they say that he was part of a family of bakers, which we were, but my father was the black sheep. He didn't work with the family bakery, but then little by little, the newspapers revealed what they found out, that he was a mainstream bootlegger.
How did that affect your life at the time?
It affected my whole life forever.
Wow, yeah.
The secrets made it worse even than the facts.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, Babette, that's something. Now, this is your second book, right? Or how many books have you
My
written?
eighth book.
Oh, your eighth book. Well, when we interviewed you before, do you remember what book that was? Or maybe it wasn't even about your book as much as just you, I think.
I think it was just about me.
Yeah, yeah. So you've written 8 books under your real name, Babette Hughes.
Sure.
Okay. And then this last one is this like, I mean, this last one, how is this one different, the last one?
Well, it's a memoir. And I had written a memoir 10 years ago. But this one is different. I'm 10 years older. It's divided into decades. Like in the beginning, there's the 1922 murders. That's my birthday. Then we go to the Great Depression, and I have a section on that, on what that was like, because people alive today, most people don't know what it was like.
Yeah.
They don't know what it was really like, and I lived through it.
How old were you during the Depression?
10.
Okay.
And my mother was a widow, of course.
Wow.
You know, her husband was murdered.
Yeah.
But I should fill in that my mother was a flapper, and she sent me away to relatives from the time I was about 3 until she lost her money in the Depression in 1929. And then she had to come home. And then my brother and I got our mother back, because she was just a party girl.
Huh.
But now there's a depression. She has a job with the city of Cleveland. There's the city was, if you can believe this, was so broke it paid its employees in script, which was like monopoly money, which is non-money, but that's what they were paid. It was called script.
Wow.
She would put me in the car with her script, and she would go to grocery stores and wait at the curb and send me in to say, "Do you take script?" And most of them said no.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'd go to the next one and the next one and the next one until she finally found someone who said yes. And she went to buy her groceries. But the Depression was just devastating. It was, the fear was in the air. It was like a person. It's like you could touch it.
Wow.
You know, these were life and death fears in a way. This one is bad, but that one was worse. That one was worse. And it lasted until World War II. Mm-hmm. That's what got us out of it. Mm-hmm. So there's a section about the Depression, and then a section about World War II. And my young husband was overseas with World War II. And I wrote about how I lived in New York then with my mother. And I wrote about how New York was just like a village. You know, there were no cars. They stopped making cars. They were making airplanes and tanks instead of automobiles. Very few cars. No men under 50. And if you saw a man older, you were very suspicious of him, because the country was gripped by patriotism, and we were all brought together in such a beautiful way, as we did in the Depression. People
Hmm.
helped each other. There weren't the haves and have-nots. Everybody had not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a different world, and really a nicer world than the one we're in now in many, many ways.
But maybe we're heading towards that, Babette.
I hope so, that
Yeah.
we will learn that we need each other and that we can be kind to each other. And in the long run, it pays off.
Hmm. And you're out in California, right?
No, I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, you're in Texas. Oh my gosh, I wonder why I thought it was okay. How's it going down there with the virus?
It's not as bad, of course, as New York, but it's there. It's, increasing. And I'm housebound, as all of us are.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, this is a good time to buy your book.
I hope, yes.
And I mean, I think it's just intriguing. It's absolutely intriguing. And it's a quick read, Babette. I love to get a book that you can read, like really fairly quickly, not drug out. So, I mean, it's a really quick read. It's so interesting. Your life is so interesting. Oh my gosh. And I mean, are you getting ready to write another one, did you say?
I have some notes, and I'm housebound, and I thought this would be a good time to.
Wow. Wow. But can they order your book on Amazon then?
This one, absolutely.
Okay. What about the others?
Yeah, they're all up there, all
Okay.
8 of them.
Okay.
You just have to say other books by Babette Hughes.
Okay. All right. And then do you have a website?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
Babette Hughes Books.
Okay, Babette Hughes Books.
Yes.
It's Babette.
Yes.
Well, I would really like to talk to you again as we're going through all this, because I think the older people, and of course, I'm old at 80, but you're getting up there, and I just think it's so interesting to talk to people, as we're aging, and that's what Aging but Dangerous is all about, is to just kind of help women go through this whole aging process and not get depressed and not get, really caught up in the negativity of it. And so, I mean, look at you at 97. I mean, that's just so incredible.
I have a whole chapter on living authentically, and it's all about living a different way as we age. Living agelessly is what it says.
That's great. Can we quote you in some of our things that we do?
Sure.
Okay, because I think you have some really fabulous quotes in there, I think, that are or things that you say that I think are important for people to hear. So that would be fun. Well, thank you for being here. We're running kind of out of time here, so thank you so much. And then let's just plan to keep talking about all this. I love your whole outlook is perfect for us. Everything that you've said is exactly what we are, trying to get across to women. So you're a perfect example, Babette, of where, women want to go and how they want to be. So let's just keep talking.
Yes, and in that book, I believe I show how.
Yes, you sure do. Yeah, you sure do. You really do. Okay, thanks a lot.
I enjoyed it. Thank you. Good questions.
Oh, good. And then we'll talk later.
Great.
Okay, good.